On Earth RV1, dreams were never private. Nolan lived in a quiet residential neighborhood, a place where keeping anything private was almost impossible. Every night, the sleeping mind opened itself above the home that contained it. Wonder, fear, desire, memory, all of it became spectacle until morning. Nolan repaired signs, painted walls, and built a life small enough to attract very little attention. Eve had never been allowed a small life. Her voice belonged to her family, her teachers, and everyone who had already decided what she would become. They admired her future so loudly they could no longer hear her. But there was one place where Eve was not a promise or a performance. With Nolan, she was simply Eve. They met in empty stairwells, on forgotten rooftops, in the spaces between other people's expectations. And whenever the world became too narrow, Nolan folded her a paper plane, a small escape made of paper. But for a few seconds, it flew. Their love survived in silence. They never spoke of it near an open window because on Earth RV1, even silence could dream. Every success became another promise Eve had to keep. Every mistake became something the entire neighborhood could discuss. And every night, she became more afraid of what they might see above her roof. The night Eve disappeared, she left no message, only a paper plane that had never been thrown. Nolan found her on a bridge, standing where nobody should stand, looking down into the dark. He reached her before the darkness did, and when she fought to return to it, he held on. He held on until her anger became exhaustion, until the rain had hidden both of their tears. Before dawn, he walked her home. At the entrance to her building, Eve placed the unfinished paper plane in his hand.
Please don't. Don't let them see me like this.
Nolan closed her fingers around it.
They won't.
He believed he had saved her life. He did not yet understand what it would cost him. That night, Nolan dreamed of the bridge. But dreams do not remember events the way people do. Nolan remembered pulling Eve back. His guilt remembered something else. Above his home, the entire neighborhood watched him walk behind Eve, place both hands against her back, and push. By sunrise, the city had watched Nolan become a murderer. The following night, Eve dreamed of running through an endless corridor. Door after door refused to open, and somewhere behind her, Nolan followed. She was not running from him. She was running from memory, from shame, from the knowledge that her secret had already begun destroying the person who saved her. But the neighborhood saw only one man behind her. Two dreams, two witnesses, one conclusion. Nolan had harmed her. Perhaps he was still harming her. No one asked what the dreams meant. Meaning belonged to the crowd now. And one by one, everything around him disappeared. Children were pulled away when he passed. One of them called him a monster. Nolan heard it. He continued walking. Eve watched from behind a window. She could not stand beside it. So, she cared for him from a distance. A warm meal outside his door, an umbrella before the rain, a new pair of shoes after his own had begun to split. No notes, no explanation. Nolan never searched for the person living them. Some truths became safer when left unspoken. Then one night, Eve remembered something. A parked car, rain across its windshield, a small red light blinking inside. She returned to the bridge, found the car, found its owner, and found the recording. The footage showed everything: Eve beyond the railing, Nolan running toward her, Nolan pulling her back, Eve fighting against him, Nolan holding her until she finally became still. The recording could restore Nolan's name. It would also give the world something it had never earned, the worst night of Eve's life. The community called a hearing, but the verdict had already been spoken beneath Nolan's window, night after night. They offered him one kindness disappear, and they would not involve the authorities. One hand rose, then another. Nolan sat alone while the room decided what kind of man he was. Across from him, Eve held the recording in her hand. She had spent months protecting Nolan in secret. That night, she chose to protect him where everyone could see, even if the truth destroyed everything they believed about her. She played the recording. The room fell silent. For one moment, the truth belonged to her. Eve understood before anyone else did.
Nolan,
Every night, you stood beneath my window and watched my dreams. You don't get this, too.
And broke it. By the time she understood what Nolan had done, it was already too late. She had offered them a darkest night to return Nolan to the light. Nolan refused, not because he feared the truth, because the truth belonged to her. Nolan did not defend himself. He had once made her paper wings because he believed they could escape together. By the time she looked toward the door, Nolan was already gone. That night, he gave her the only freedom he had left, a life beyond the reach of their eyes. Months passed. Nolan found a small home beyond the edge of the city, a place where fewer people watched the sky. They still called him a monster. Distance did not change the story, it only made the voices quieter. Eve became everything they had expected. Her voice filled larger rooms. Her name traveled farther than Nolan ever would. But every song ended and left her in the same silence. Then, one night, Nolan dreamed of a bridge. Not the bridge where he had found Eve, something else. An endless bridge made of glass, suspended beneath the midnight sky. At one end stood Nolan, at the other, Eve. They began walking toward each other. With every step, memories moved beneath the glass. The stairwell, the headphones, the rooftop, the unfinished paper plane, the rain. For the first time, Nolan no longer dreamed of pushing her. Less than an inch remained between them. Far away, Eve dreamed of the same bridge that night, and she no longer dreamed of running from him. But in hers, Nolan was walking toward the opposite end. He never looked back. Eve did not run after him. She did not call his name. She simply held the paper plane against her chest and watched him leave. Then morning came. Nolan woke before they touched. His hand was still reaching toward the window. Eve woke to an empty room, the paper plane still against her chest. The world had separated them in life. In his dreams, he was still reaching. In hers, she had already let him go. Nolan chose to remain in the dark so Eve could keep living in the light. Welcome to the Maya simulation.